What's up guys, this is Miasin. So I'm currently in Richmond, Virginia for the YCS, which explains why the video and audio quality is not really that good. And I also have very little time for editing this weekend, so for the most part this is going to be a raw video. Might actually be 100% raw, but who cares. But yeah, anyways, today I really wanted to talk about this card right here, which is Typhon, a rank 12 Xyz monster that you're basically never summoning with 2 level 12 monsters. You're basically always going to be slapping it on top of a monster the same way that Zeus is summoned on top of any of your Xyz monsters, but after you battled. So very similar to that, this card does have a condition where you can only summon it on top of the highest attack monster you control the turn or the turn after your opponent special summoned 2 or more times from the extra deck, which of course in this current super fast format everybody's trying to do outside of a couple of decks. So Flunderies, Purely, Labyrinth, and sometimes Rescue Ace, they can easily either completely dodge that because they don't summon from the extra deck, or they barely summon from the extra deck. I mean, Rescue Ace, it really depends on what they're trying to do, but if they go Turbo and set 4 pass, that's already a decent enough board, and it inherently plays through Superstar Slayer, Nemesis, Typhon, Sky Crisis. Well, I don't even know this card's real name. I couldn't care less. Typhon, there you go. But yeah, this card's really good, and I think it just doesn't get enough credit for what it can do. And again, every single day, I just keep learning more and more things about this card that make me change my mind about how truly broken this card really is. So yeah, it's like, it beats the combo decks, and it's really good in the trap decks. It's not really good against, slower paced decks, but it does fix a huge issue in the game, which is going second against decks that just spam from the extra deck 25 times, summon a bunch of Omni Negates. And one thing that I've noticed is that almost every single big negate in this game has, 3,000 or more attack, and the ones that don't have 3,000 or more attack, it's really not the end of the world, because you can literally just normal summon this, slap, just normal summon anything, and then slap, your Typhon on top of it, and then jump over, and then, main phase 2, you can bounce back something. So, for example, if your opponent has Borreload, or Baron de Fleur, or Borreload Savage Dragon with Herald of the Arclight, you can normal summon anything, jump over the Herald, and then main phase 2, you summon this card, bounce back the Baron, your opponent can't do anything about it, because it does have 3,000 attack. And another thing that I noticed, which is pretty funny, this doesn't affect monsters whose original attack are 3,000 or more. It's like any monster with 3,000 or more attack. So sometimes your opponent's monsters, they technically have lower attack, but because of the fact that they're getting their attack boosted by something like the various field spells that people are playing that might boost the attack of their monsters by 500, or sometimes continuous spell cards, they just randomly lose to it. But there's something else that I think not a lot of people really know about this, because I myself learned it very recently, and it's in the wording of this card. There are 2 extremely crucial things that I just completely missed out on the first time I read it. So this card's effect, the continuous effect reads, while this exceeds summoned monsters on the field, so that's already one thing, neither player can activate the effects of monsters of 3,000 or more attack. This really matters because it affects the players, not the monsters themselves. So in other words, this card can even floodgate monsters that are unaffected by card effects, which you do not see every day. Like the fact that, again, you can protect yourself from towers by basically just normal summoning like Gem Knight Garnet or Droll and Logbird or whatever the hell going second is honestly unheard of. This card's drawback, this card's floodgating effect only matters if it's Xyz summoned. But I'm pretty sure if it gets like temporarily banished by SP Little Knight and it comes back, it's still Xyz summoned. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know it's special summoned, but I will have to check the ruling to see if it's still Xyz summoned. But it doesn't matter too much. And the last effect to bounce back a monster, there's also a lot of relevant things to know about it. So obviously, you have to detach a material and then bounce back any monster on the field to the hand doesn't target. And you can bounce back your own monsters as well, as you can technically bounce back this old card if you already have a lot of materials underneath, because even though more often than not you will be summoning Typhon on top of a normal monster, like normal monster, not like a vanilla monster, but I mean like a random ass monster from the main deck, you could technically summon Typhon on top of an Xyz monster, and that way you just have a bunch of materials, so you can bounce back on your own turn, and then bounce back the next turn, in case you don't die, in case you're trying to break boards. So it definitely is very relevant to know that you can do that. But again, do remember that you do have to summon it on top of the monster with the highest attack on the field, on your field, which is a little inconvenient, and you can't normal or special summon for the rest of the turn after you summon this card by this summoning condition, which is the main reason why people are giving this card a lot of crap. But it doesn't change the fact that this card honestly is still a necessity to play in your deck, because not only, first of all, it doesn't matter how hard you brick, you can basically always access this card, which is already good news. But also, it only takes one slot from your extra deck, unlike, I don't know, if you're trying to splash like an Xyz like package in your deck and summon Zeus, like in a deck that doesn't usually Xyz summon, might be a little more difficult. But again, Typhon allows you to clear boss monsters that most decks or most engines would not be able to typically clear. So this is very interesting because, like I said, it changes the dynamics of the game, because now nobody's really going to try to summon cards like Borderland Dragon. This card just isn't good anymore. It cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects, and neither player can target it with monster effects, and it has 3500 attack, can attack a bunch of monsters, can negate stuff, but none of that matters if you do not have a way to deal with the Typhon. And it's not like you can say, oh, well, I mean, I can use whatever, like Nibiru and stuff like that to protect me. Well, first of all, another thing that matters about this card is the fact that it prevents players from activating the effect of monsters with 3000 or more attack, and that includes from everywhere, including the hand. So if your 5th summon is a Typhon, you're actually safe from Nibiru. And that's another thing that, you know, I learned as of recently. Like, you could technically put up like a decent enough board, and then if your opponent doesn't nib you, and then he just holds it for longer, even if you don't have like an actual negate, you're still threatening the Nibiru with a Typhon, which is honestly just terrifying when I think about it. Like, now you just have to think about things completely differently. Like, it's no longer, it doesn't matter if your opponent has like doesn't have like Appaloosa. Again, negations are not relevant when you can just summon this card at the middle of nowhere and then just kill your opponent. And again, if it's summon number 5, then you're always safe from Nib, because Nib has exactly 3000 attack. How convenient. But yeah, I mean, whatever. This is just insane. Obviously, again, it's gonna be harder to OTK since you have to summon it on the monster with the highest attack. But if your deck just plays a bunch of high attack beaters and you're going second and you're killing, again, it's completely irrelevant. So very disgusting. But again, like the fact that it just clears Borderland Dragon just like that, 0 effort. It can basically just jump over like one negate or like bounce back another. That's also very interesting. I mean, these 2 negates, everybody's trying to summon them right now. I mean, Rescue Ace is able to summon both of them because they can sync with the Diabell Star and Jet Synchron for the Borreload Savage Dragon, and then get back the Linkuriboh. And then for the Baronne de Fleur, I mean, they're using Turbulence, which is a level 9, as well as Jet Synchron, so that's how they're getting a level 10 Synchro monster. So the fact that, again, you have an inherent way to deal with those cards, and then you can use Duster on main phase 2. Well, I mean, you don't even have to go on main phase 2. You can use Duster right away after clearing everything. And if you have, you know, a bunch of back row, then you can probably, like, play through stuff and just, like, you know, keep up with your opponent's pace, honestly. Now, another thing that is very nice with cards like Typhon is that you can just disregard, you know, floodgates that used to be really good, like El Shaddoll Winda. Yeah, obviously, that card was insane against a bunch of decks, and even against trap decks, this card could be good because sometimes they have to special summon a bunch of times on your own turn. But now none of that matters, because again, you can, if you're playing like, let's say Labyrinth, and you're playing against 2 elements, you can go normal summon a Chandra or Stovir or something, and then summon the Typhon, jump over 2 things, get rid of the Winda, and then you can go like welcome, big welcome, a bunch of things on your opponent's turn next turn. And since you're applying so much pressure again with one single card, it goes to the grave anyway, so you're going to be getting value off of it. It's just going to be like a pain for your opponent to now deal with a Typhon, have less resources, and you still have 5 cards in your hand. Like, you could go normal summon Ariana, search a card, and you basically just went like +2 in terms of like relative card advantage, because your opponent went -2, and you have the exact same, I mean, technically you went +1 because you're generating an extra card in your hand, while also, again, like being in the driver's seat. So yeah, very terrifying card for sure. And again, if you're playing a deck against a deck like Branded Chimera, then they can't go Guardian Chimera to destroy all of your cards on the end phase if you're playing a trap deck. But to be fair, that deck can easily play around Typhon if they're only summoning like once from the extra deck on each turn, so that's easy to do. On their own turn, they're summoning the Chimera Fusion level 6 that Foolish, well, not Foolish is, but discards on your end phase. And then on your own turn, they're summoning the Foolish Burial one, and then send like End of Anubis or the Dark Bear statue and stuff like that, or they're going into Guardian Chimera. Or they could do both, but they're gonna need to hard draw like a fusion spell for that, the second fusion spell, which is a little difficult to do. But yeah, honestly, again, like, I just keep, like, having more and more reasons to believe that Typhon is insane, and it changes everything about the game, because now if you have monsters with, like, very high attack, like 3,000 or more, and lower defense, like Baron having 2,400 defense, you absolutely cannot afford to summon it in defense, even if it plays around the Lightning Storm, because then your opponent can simply jump over it with the Typhon, and then bounce back another monster on the main phase 2, which might be a little better in case your opponent has like another negate with like less than 3k, or if your opponent had like an imperm for the Typhon, in which case it wouldn't have mattered if your opponent, you know, summoned the Baron and attack, because he would have impermed the Typhon anyways. But at the same time, it changes very little at the end of the day, because again, one single card gets you there. And yeah, regardless of what deck you're playing now, if you summon a lot from the extra deck, just keep in mind that you can lose out to just about any monster out there. So it's very scary. And this card is going to be extremely good in simplified game state and like top deck mode and stuff like that. You can randomly make comebacks through like the nuts. And being able to bounce back your own monsters can matter in case, I don't know, you have like a random Ash on your field that you could technically revive back with like Cross Sheep and stuff like that. You can bounce it back and stuff like that, so it's pretty cool. Anyways, that's all I had for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.